sure people want to hear more from Lisa. So let me introduce our third big category. And again, I know we just tried to pick as many little things out of the book as we could without overwhelming you. But this is Lisa was there was really three individuals that I see you there, Support Academics. I see you there, Charmaine. Thank you, co-teacher.
It's like we're co-teaching.
Of course it is. It's not like we are. Exactly. But Corey Moore was another one of the parents, along with Robin Weckerly, who I noted before. Another contributor to the book was a teacher named Sarah Brady. There were certain stories I saw, whether it was through social or just colleagues, and one of them was Corey, who has a site called Dreams Form Goals. And she posted this in April, and I just fell in love with the image and everything about it. 6th grade general ed mass media assignment adapted for my son who can't read or write. Teacher used video messages, son typed dictation, used board maker, cut items, placed in correct order. He learned with peers by working on personal goals, #inclusion, #UDL. And I started talking to folks in those early days and saying, inclusion is alive and well. It may not be easy, but these stories are warming my heart. And so I contacted Corey and said, please write a piece for the book. And so she, I think hers was the second piece after Lisa's, writing these and just saying, what's it like from the parent side? What were the accommodations like, and so on and so forth. But I just love everything about this, that they stayed right in the, the centerpiece of universal design, general ed curriculum, made it work for him. And as Corey said, and just in case anyone was unclear about the status of Six Flags on April 6th, it was closed. I love that.
Yeah, this is a great story in the book, and I want to show the cover again. So keep your comments coming, because Paula has more to share with us, right?
Well, and I'm just going to say, too, if you are on the advocacy end of this and you're wondering how do we make this happen, then you need Charmaine's toolkit. And I'm not just saying that. I mean, this is just really a glorious resource. And it's just, they're just good companion pieces. There's no two ways about it. And we're going to give a copy of the toolkit away, too. She's embarrassed that I'm doing that, but it's from the heart, and it's so good. So good. So I want to turn this over to Lisa, who's going to talk a little bit about Chloe. And just to give it some context, I was doing this Facebook Live, and she types this at the end of the Facebook Live. She types this about, my teen wanted to take guitar, and during virtual learning, she was asked to practice and submit weekly videos. We wanted more support, so we emailed the teacher, who immediately set up a weekly 45-minute session for individual and group learning. And I just wrote back to her and said, what? Tell me more about this.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. In the March, we weren't really sure what to expect, but our high school had been planning for not a pandemic, but snow days, and what could we do to keep our students engaged if we had a snow day. So Monday after Friday the 13th, they were already up and running, and we were told practice guitar as many days as you can and submit your videos. So we learned how to use Flipgrid. And then we thought, wouldn't it be great if she could interact with some of her peers as well? So we emailed the orchestra and guitar teacher, how can we make this more interactive for Chloe? So they set up a weekly meeting with the teachers, a couple of students. And of course, my husband is supporting this because he's the musical genius at our house. And they practiced guitar together, talked about music, and they had a couple of peers practice whatever they were working on. So they all got to collaborate. Chloe got to see a few friends, and they were really excited about it. And then this semester, she decided she wanted to continue taking guitar because we have a few more electives to fill. And we thought that we would do intermediate guitar, but after more discussion, we thought, wouldn't it be great if we could be with a few more students? And the intermediate guitar only had maybe 2 students, but the beginning guitar had a dozen or so. So they joined in again with beginning guitar and practiced together started talking about how the chords would look, and they practiced strumming. So they tuned Chloe's guitar to open G, so that when she plays it, you can kind of hear what song she's playing, even though she doesn't have all the chords and things like that. But they practice together and they have a blast. And one of the things that's really cool, this kind of goes back to the paraprofessionals, is Chloe has an amazing paraprofessional, Kevin, or Mr. G.
Is that him?
Yes, that's him right there. He has a background in theater, and he is just amazing. So one of the things that they are able to do, which we would not be able to do while in person, is at the end of her English class, they do all their work, and when they're finished, Kevin and Chloe go into a breakout room, and they can practice guitar. So Kevin will ask Chloe, what song do you want to play? And she'll let him know. So it might be Waltzing Matilda. It might be some Flo Rida. It could really be anything. And so he will cue it up, and he will play with the guitar, and they will just go to town singing and playing for maybe 5-10 minutes. And at the end, they always have their hands in the air, and they might be singing, dancing a little bit too, but they're having a blast, and he really knows how to connect with her.
Well, and there's so many good messages in this. And would you, if I want to put up that some of your recommendations, and you talked a little bit about tuning the guitar, but there's some other recommendations in here from the book that I just love, especially that first one.
Absolutely. So ask. You never know. I mean, we may think, what do we really want to see our kids have? As a parent, a lot of times, what their strengths are, where they're going to really shine with peers or in a classroom. Ask your teacher, how can we make this happen? And sometimes it will happen, and sometimes it won't, but you won't know unless you ask. And you may have to tweak it a few times, until you get it right, but you won't know unless you ask. It's really about collaboration.
And, you did talk a little bit about some of the paraprofessionals, but I love how, in the piece you kind of talk about, that what I love about the story is it's not just about her participating, that she's really building skill here, and so that the school's really made, it seems like a really lovely commitment to making sure that she's learning to play the guitar. It may be a longer process than for other folks, but I just love that aspect too, is that they're not only willing to think about those different kinds of groupings, but how to modify in these really creative ways.
Absolutely. And it's cool that they will practice in a whole group at the beginning of class and maybe have a little bit of a discussion, but then Chloe and Kevin can go into the breakout room, and then they can really focus on what piece are they going to work on for their recital at the end of the semester. So it's a nice collaboration of time with the class and to work on her skills in particular.
Talk about the technology there too, Lisa. Talk about that amplification of the experience, how you supported her with her hearing.
Okay, so periodically in the educational strategies group, we discuss strategies or different things that'll be helpful for people. And somebody had shared that, hey, we have an HDMI from our child's Chromebook to a spare TV. And so Chloe has bilateral congenital cataracts, and she also has moderate hearing loss. So the big screen TV with the HDMI connection allows us to see peers, classmates, and staff up close and personal. It also allows her to hear them really well. So this is not something we could get in an in-person environment. Well, we could get it with the FM system, but it's so much better virtually, because it's like they're right in the room with you.
Yeah, I can just, whenever, anyone that's never had a big monitor and then gets one, it's like, oh my gosh, it's a whole new world. So thinking about some of those other benefits, and then let's connect it to that last, following passions and interests too, because to me, that's another, not that it wouldn't be a benefit other times and ways, but I do think we can lean into trying new things this year. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So with virtual learning, one thing you can do is you can pop into a Zoom or a Google Meet and see, what does the class look like? Is this something that's interesting to me? How can it be modified? Can we observe it? So it really gives us an opportunity to see what might work, what might be interesting for your student, and where can they shine and excel.
Yeah, I said there's a lot of courses, and this is nothing against some of these courses I'm going to mention, but it might be a lot of kids are taking, say, a culinary arts class, which, by the way, a lot of my child loves that class. A lot of kids love it, but as long as it needs to be a choice, are we letting kids also look at African studies, British literature, the drama club? There's so much in the catalog in a lot of places, and this might be a time to kind of spy in those places, especially as the semester comes around next month. And since you're talking about that, Lisa, I want to show this Spanish vocabulary, because that's another one of those the classes that Chloe's now in, and that you have used that also to get her with these strengthen the social connections.
Sure. And I'm going to pop back to the paraprofessional. So Chloe has an awesome paraprofessional, Mr. Blair, who every time there's new vocabulary, will create a PowerPoint or slideshow with the new vocabulary, and he will add pictures to it. So during class, they can go over that. But I also print it out, and we make flashcards so we can review and practice at home as well. But one of the things we were talking about yesterday, I sent an email to the Spanish teacher and the team. It would be really great if we can find some more ways to include her in the class. So could we maybe have her practice with Mr. Blair some of the phrases or questions, and then have Chloe ask a peer during class some of those questions, or could a peer ask her a question and have her answer it? So then there's a 1 or 2 minute quick interaction, but we're still doing something with peers. And it also, as Paula likes to talk about, places the student as a leader in front of peers within the classroom.
Yeah, I love that example. And again, that goes back to just ask. You were the one that came forward and said, is this possible? I just want to add one more thing to this part, which is, if this is also from the book, but if you're somebody that wouldn't know how to start this, or if you're an educator, one way that you can formalize some of those ideas of getting kids, sometimes it'll happen quite naturally, but if you want to sort of lean into some of these peer interactions and you're looking for something that's a little bit more robust, or something that maybe takes place during a study time, one of our recommendations for accessing academics is setting kids up with peer tutors. And this is such a rich time to do it, because peer tutors can now exist not only across classrooms, but across buildings, and quite frankly, across the world. I mean, if you were really being creative. So one of the teachers in the book talks about that, not the world, but she said, I'm going to start, setting up mentorships across buildings, that kind of thing. Right. So there is an example of what we call a peer tutor script in the book for those that are thinking, hey, I might float this to my team and say, before school, after school, at lunch, could my child get a peer tutor? And if they're not sure how to get it going, maybe formalizing it with a script will help the teachers know how to approach kids, and will help kids know how to move forward. And a lot of these, like doing a vocabulary share, like with the Spanish, kids can do that back and forth with each other. There can be reciprocity with kids with and without disabilities. So now you know why I brought Lisa Orvis. And think about how many students with disabilities don't get to draft off of some of those things that their families enjoy, because they're not options.
Right.
And so I think that's that comes out in more than one section, is saying, this is the time to go all in. This is the time to push the boundaries. And I was joking with Lisa saying, yeah, even with a paraprofessional sampling these classes, it used to be that we had to run from one hallway to the next in the high school. And that's not an issue. I mean, it's really an interesting time. So this is the year to ask for that unusual, visit, and let's try some things out. And I had to say, I'm sorry, Charmaine, in advance, but we do need to have Chloe here, because all I have I'm sorry, but you know I had to. You just know I did.
Well, when I read Chloe's story, I didn't know they made half guitars. But now, Paula, I didn't know they made 1/8 guitars.
Well, now you know. And now you know where my skill level is. So.